We are back in Athens, Greece. My name is Anastasios, and today we'll visit a one-stop secret NATO facility in one of the mountains that surrounds Athens, called Pentelikon. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was a US-led effort after World War II to create an early warring barrier, a buffer zone between the Soviet Union and the United States, while at the same time maintaining a level of control over Europe, especially to avoid letting Germany repeat what happened in the Second World War, and ensure that USSR will not expand further to challenge America as the only global superpower. As we read in NATO's declassified archive, the first Secretary General of NATO, Lord Hastings Ismay, notably said 6 months after taking up this role that NATO was created to keep the Soviet Union out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. Of course, to do all of that, a robust and reliable communications network was needed, and thus one of the first NATO projects was to make this a reality. And this is our today's site, one of those secret NATO communication stations. Welcome to Spy Spots. After NATO's first approach to solve this, codenamed Double Jump, the final design was established and implemented under what became known as the ACE-High, or Allied Command Europe-Highband. As we read in the 1995 book Nuclear Command and Control in NATO, Nuclear Weapons Operations and the Strategy of Flexible Response, Double Jump itself was the initial phase of a more ambitious plan to link the European NATO members through the ACE-High project. ACE-High was the first of the NATO, as distinct from national-funded command and control infrastructure programs. It provided near real-time communications between SHAPE and all of the ACE PSCs, covering a distance of over 9,000 miles. This system relied on a mixture of troposcatter over the horizon and line-of-sight radio links, and was fully operational by November of 1963. ACE-High remained one of the principal dedicated carriers of ACE theater-wide communications. By 1990, it comprised of 49 troposcatter and 40 microwave line-of-sight links supporting 570 voice, 260 telegraph, and 60 data circuits. And in this declassified map you can see the network better. The station we'll be visiting is the Golf Papa Kilo Zulu. Worth noting that those station names were based on a NATO code too. Golf was the country, Greece, Papa Kilo, the city, Athens, and Zulu, the site's code. Although this station started to operate in 1958, that site code was only established in 1971, before it was simply referred to as GB, meaning Greece Station B. The ACE-High Journal has done an amazing job documenting these and other stations, so we highly recommend it to you if you are studying this topic. Links in the description. Now, although we provide the exact coordinates, we'd like to warn you to not attempt to visit this location if you aren't confident in your driving skills, since it's a remote location with unmaintained roads and no support is really close by. Also, if you do visit, please try to respect the history and legacy of this site. Unfortunately, it has already suffered a lot of damage, so don't make it worse. Back to its history. Golf Papa Kilo Zulu was at the top of the Pentelikon mountain at an altitude of over 1,000 meters above sea level, that's around 3,500 feet. This allowed great line of sight with several other ACE-High stations, making it an important communications hub for NATO. The first thing that you'll see after arriving is the security guard building. To this day, all of that physical location belongs to the Ministry of Defense of Greece, and after its NATO decommissioning in the late 90s, it was used by the Greek military. For our viewers with military experience, after passing this, you'll be greeted with a typical military installation. The facility had 8 antennas. Those were the first, called Direction Alpha, pointing to Turkey, Izmir. The Bravo 1 and 2 were Direction Bravo, pointing to Crete, Greece. Charlie 1 and 2 were Direction Charlie, towards Kefalonia, Greece. And lastly, Delta 1 and Delta 2 were Direction Delta, towards Larissa, Greece. Nowadays, only their cement bases remain in the site. Then we have this small building, likely for the watch officers, as well as this small general-purpose warehouse. Then on the right, a small church. And right in front of you, you see the headquarters of the site, NATO designated as the personnel building. As you probably noticed, there is still some use of this site, not as sensitive as it once was, but still, the antenna mast and its infrastructure is in a restricted area. Don't enter there. Next to the personnel building, we have those two buildings that we'll explore next. Those two large structures were holding fuel tanks for the power building next to them. And talking about that, here is how that power building looks on the inside today. This building was receiving the energy from the grid and was responsible to transfer power to the entire station, from the buildings to the antennas, as well as to have 2 diesel generators in order to be able to provide power even if the grid went down. Here is a look inside. Next to the power building, the smaller one was known as the no-break building and was having the uninterruptible power supply. All buildings and facilities were connected to this to get their power, not the power building directly, ensuring they will not experience any power outages, thus called no-break building. This hole on the floor was how the power lines were routed all around the facility. And here's on the outside. Where you can still see all those cement channels for routing the power lines. Those exist throughout the facility. Next we have a tiny building with just a large oven inside. It's not clear what this was about. It could have been for destruction of classified material, but maybe more. This very long building was the electronics building and, unfortunately, it's still inside the restricted area. This is where all the technical equipment was installed. And for last, we left the HQ of the station, the personnel building, which is the most impressive since it's where people lived. On its top floor, you'll find a long corridor with a typical military office and living quarters. This is where people slept and did their office work. Actually, some of them even have nice balconies with breathtaking view of Athens. But walking downstairs on the ground floor, we have the main social space of the headquarters. It's an area that was usually a restaurant and socializing space, but was occasionally changed to facilitate larger events. It had a nice fireplace on one side, and large windows looking over Athens on its opposite side. Next to it is the kitchen area, with a view to the parking space of the headquarters. And a window next to each door for the personnel to receive their meals. There is also a basement, but there wasn't anything worthwhile there, and it was in a really bad condition. Also, talking about the condition, those buildings haven't been maintained for decades. Please be extremely cautious if you visit this site. Again, it's a remote location that even if you ask for help, it will take a long time for the help to arrive. For safety, avoid visiting it on your own. The view from the Golf Papa Kilo Zulu station is impressive, to say the least. You literally have the entire Athens on your feet. We can only speculate how would it be for the NATO officials working in this secret facility during the Cold War era. With a fireplace on one side, Athens on your window, all alone at the top of a mountain, relaying and providing a reliable communications platform to all NATO members. Such sites exist today too, but it will take a long time until we'll be able to visit them and present them. That's because in this unstable geopolitical situation at a global scale, and even more so at a strategic location like Greece, nothing's as it seems.